All right, folks, it's Trial Tuesday, and today we're talking about meth labs. They're a growing problem in the country, especially right here in the South. And Attorney David Aylor joins us now to weigh in on these labs. Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, why do you think so many are starting to pop up? I mean, you hear a news story just about every other week or so that they're shutting down a meth lab. Well,
the reason that over the last probably 10 to 15 years you've really seen such a rise in them is the fact that people have figured out ways through internet technology and things like that to basically make these labs out of almost just anything. Everything from a 2-liter bottle to just very small operations in hotel rooms, houses, trailers, things like that, as opposed to the way it used to be years ago where it took really almost like a chemist lab to create the meth.
Wow, so are you finding now that these people who are putting together these meth labs, of course, when it comes to charging them with things, it's usually robbery on the first end because sometimes they're knocking off these pharmacies looking for the drugs to make?
Absolutely. The thing with the meth addicts is there's so much desperation. So you see a lot of violent acts take place in order to get, money and other, whether it be the drugs or supplies to make the meth labs. And then beyond that, you see where they're just risking the lives of so many people by how they're actually trying to go about to create the meth.
Now, how dangerous are these meth labs? Because you always hear them, and usually oftentimes they're popping up in hotels or motels, and even in the middle of neighborhoods where you might not expect that a meth lab will be. What are the dangers to the people who live in that area if a meth lab goes undiscovered and, God forbid, something happens?
Well, it's extremely dangerous, and that's why you see such an importance within the police departments of trying to find these meth labs and stop them, simply because the amount of explosive they're using to create this meth is just, it's so dangerous. It could blow up an entire block, and sometimes has. And the thing beyond that, it's also very expensive for the police forces, because when they do actually find these meth labs, the amount of time and efforts and resources they have to put in just to really clean out and clear the meth lab is just extreme.
Now, how can the common citizen really what warning signs do you think that they should be looking for, say, in their neighborhoods if they suspect a meth lab?
Well, that's a good question. One thing that you often see is a lot of people in and out, because these are activities that are going on throughout the night. Also, if you see, lights on, a lot of power being used at a home where it just looks like activity would be going on all day, all night. Those are types of things that you're not usually going to see at a family home or a single residence. And so if you see that sort of thing, it's probably worth paying attention to, trying to figure out what exactly could be going on, because you're right, sometimes they are in the middle of family neighborhoods.
Yeah, and you would never ever suspect that maybe your neighbor or someone that's a block over has a meth lab there, so definitely that could be a dangerous situation. Now, what type of charges, if someone gets caught in these meth labs or shut down, what kind of charges are they looking at, especially maybe if they're a first-time offender with meth?
Well, they're still looking at felony charges. Now, whether or not they actually would go to prison or be put on probation would be depending on the judge and the different circumstances. But they're going to be looking at the felony charges, and also once they're on, probation or any type of sort of stigma from that, you're going to see the police looking a lot closer. Beyond that, once you see repeated type offenders, you will see a lot of times where they're going to prison for long terms simply because of the risk they're putting the public at.
Right. So initially, you're saying a person who's a first-time offender with a meth lab, chances are they might not even have to serve time?
It really just depends on what role they play. There's a lot of different role players in it, depending on whether they actually just catch them with the materials or they actually catch them in the middle of it. We've seen some horrific incidents here in the Low Country where, fires have created and people have actually died. Those types are obviously going to be going to prison for a very long time, but it really depends on the circumstances. And the problem really is that there just continues to be so many more. Even after they shut them down, 3 more pop up.
Wow. All right, David, thank you so much. So if you're in your neighborhood and you want to sort of keep an eye out, David gave us some great examples of what to be on the lookout for. Let's see if we can get those meth labs under control. David, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we've got the Charleston County Library and the River Dogs up next, so stay with us.